Good day. Let's see, did I forget anything? Roll call. Thank you. I'm gonna run through the list of names. So, okay, Matt is not here. Sean? Here. Melanie? Here. Jonathan?
Here.
Jody?
Here.
Ron?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
I had to switch devices, so that's a little, tenuous for me.
You sound great. And Jay is out. Okay, that moves us on to preliminary general business. Still not forgetting anything.
We'll jump in.
Great. All right, do any members of the committee or staff have announcements?
I have a question. Someone asked me about the beacon crossing that's on the FUTs near Beulah and Woodland. And it's shown as a high priority on the city's interactive map. And I said I would ask about if there was an actual timeline planned for it, or if it's high priority but not quite on a schedule yet.
That one, it is high priority. I think we have funding in some of the out years of the capital plan for it. It's not on the schedule yet. We need to do some investigation to see how that crossing might work.
Where exactly stuff would.
Yeah, the principal concern is how close it is to the signal, the existing signal at Beulah.
Good, I'll at least be able to say it's they're thinking about it and planning it out.
In our hearts and on our minds.
Okay, are there any other announcements?
I have one. I got this note from Karen Mellis Clark, who many of you may know. She's part of the Friends of Jack Welch. She asked me to share an update on the Jack Welch Memorial Bridge. The renaming of that bridge was approved by the Open Space Commission and City Council. I don't remember exactly when, but I think it was in the last year. And this is the small bridge, trail bridge that crosses the Rio Flag in Picture Canyon Preserve, if you've ever been on it. The plaque for the bridge is being procured with private funds. Staff will install it on a rock near the bridge in the Picture Canyon Preserve. They are planning to have a dedication ceremony, which we will be advised of, and I'll pass around that invitation if anybody wants to attend. And then her last comment was that it has been 2 years this week since Jack passed. So time flies.
Thank you. Any other announcements? I think we lost Ron. Oh no, he's still there. Never mind. Apologies. It's weird. The different screens always confuse me.
Some of them have.
Sorry, you're still here, Ron. You're great. We can't.
We can assume it's on my end, so.
All right, and if there are no other announcements, we can move on to public comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to address the committee? I see a hand raised on the Teams.
Hello, hi, that's me. Can I just go ahead and chat?
Go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Wonderful. Hey, my name is Sam Noble. I live in Sunnyside, and I actually came here to chat about the beacon light on Beulah and Woodlands as well. So super happy to see that there's at least funding for it. Looking forward to see the future progress on that. But I also wanted to chat about 2 other things that I would just love to see prioritized, and that is the additional crosswalks on a lot of the intersections on Route 66. I think 5 or 6 of them only have 3 crossings, and it takes a really long time to cross Route 66 if moving, if you're going from one corner to the other and there's no crossing available. You have to cross the road 3 different times to get to where you're going. I was walking to Starbucks the other day, and I think I timed it and it took 5 minutes to cross from the one corner all the way over to the Starbucks side. And that's just a shame that it takes that much time. I understand that Route 66 is ADOT controlled or federally controlled, or at least not locally controlled, and they're prioritizing car traffic. But I would just love to see that prioritized. One other thing is just the additional crossings on Cedar as well. I hang out at the Cedar House coffee shop all the time, and the amount of people that I see froggering across the road there at Main and Mountain View is pretty alarming sometimes, seeing people go across the road where there's no traffic control or anything, and traffic's going pretty fast. So just wanted to make that known that that's a priority of mine, and I would love to ensure that was a priority of y'all's as well. Yeah, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Samuel.
We can't have too much discussion on it because it's not agendized, but we do have an item in the reports on the Safe Routes to School project that Carlton will be reporting on later on in the meeting that involves Cedar Avenue. So Sam, if you're able to stick around, we can give you an update on some planning for Cedar Avenue and in fact that whole area of North Sunnyside.
Great.
And we're all in agreement about those crossings on Route 66. It's been brought up by bicyclists and peds, and you were in good company there. I hope that that is able to be solved before I die. I thought that was funny when I moved here, and now I know it's totally serious. But there's a ton of stuff going on, so I mean, the downtown mile and the other stuff, so it's partly funny, but partly, yeah, pleased with what's going on.
I mean, university's finished, so that's pretty.
That was huge. Beautiful.
Okay, are there any other members of the public that would like to comment? In that case, we can move on to item 3, approving of minutes. So I see we have 5 sets of minutes to approve here. Is that correct?
We have 5 sets. We're still working on getting them all together. We're partway through them, but we're still catching up
Okay,
with writing them up for you. So nothing to approve tonight.
understood. Okay,
And 7 for the next, wait, did you say 5, 6, 7?
I see 5 here. We didn't meet in June, so, right?
Right.
Right, we will stay tuned. Moving on to new business. Pedestrian and bicycle crash data report.
Call up my, our PowerPoint. And we usually put it on this screen, is that okay?
Arrow.
So we've been, I think it's been a couple of months since we looked at a draft of this, but we've been working on getting the updates to it. What I sent in the packet has all the updated information, the graph, the charts and tables and maps have all been updated, and the text has been updated. Since we met last, ADOT made available the 2024 crash data, so we incorporated that into the information as well. Like the last version you saw went up through 2023, and since we had the data, we updated it through 2024. So that set us back a little bit because it took a little while to incorporate all that information. I won't go through these in details, but we tried to call out the.
Is there a secret to this one?
You have to pull, there's a little spring-loaded thing you have to pull back on and then insert while you're pulling back.
Oh, okay, there is a secret.
Yeah.
Big secret. Thanks, guys.
Without getting electrocuted.
That's the key. All right, sorry, Martin.
No worries. So this is kind of the data points that jumped out at us. So feel free to review those and see what you think about them. We updated the maps. This one shows, there's really two types of maps. One shows high crash, so just the numbers of crashes for pedestrians and bicyclists. The other one shows high injury, so where there were either serious injury crashes or fatal crashes. So this is high crash. And the lines indicate street segments, the circles indicate intersections, and then the number is the number of crashes. And keep in mind that this is over a 10-year period. So you can see, and just for orientation, this is downtown. Blue is NAU. This is the Sunnyside neighborhood, and then Route 66 kind of goes through the middle of town. So this is Milton. Route 66, Butler is here, 4th Street and Lockett. And then we can do the same thing for bicycle crashes. And then we actually combine ped and bike crashes to get an idea of kind of the streets where the most activity is. That's high crash, so that's just based on the number of crashes total. We can also break this down by high injury. So again, high injury is defined as fatal and serious injury crashes. You might see it on here in a few places, but the shorthand for high injury is KA crashes. K are fatal, A are serious injury crashes. So this version shows pedestrian. We can see Milton as a corridor, downtown on Route 66. One intersection at San Francisco and Butler, another section of Butler, 4th Street at the south end, West Avenue. And then we've seen it before, but that corridor along Route 66 and Highway 89 going out toward the mall. For bikes, oops, sorry, bikes got misplaced somehow. This is all together. So a combination of bike and ped. High injury crashes.
Similar spots.
Yeah, there weren't, for whatever reason, if we saw the bike map, they're less concentrated, so there are only a few corridors and a few segments that even had 2 high injury bike crashes, so that this map tends to be dominated by pedestrian high injury crashes. So it's going to be a lot of the same corridors. These are divided into segments, so kind of from intersection to big intersection, we considered one segment. If you look at like Milton, you can see that there's a handful of segments and a handful of intersections that all kind of count, in this case, in high injury. So we looked at that and divided it into longer corridors and divided it into, the pedestrian crashes and bicycle crashes. And these were the corridors that kind of popped out, beginning on both sides with Milton. And for pedestrians, 4th Street had 21 crashes, Beulah had 18, Woodlands Village Boulevard, 17, Butler Avenue, 15, Route 66 through downtown had 15, Highway 89, 14, and Knowles through campus, which is kind of a surprise, had 11. And then the bike corridors on the right, there are 5 that show up on both lists. So Milton, Route 66, Beulah, 4th Street, and Butler. And then you can see, for example, on Milton, there were 77 total ped and bike crashes on Milton. Just Milton alone, if you look at Milton crashes compared to citywide, I think 10% of pedestrian crashes were on Milton and 13% of bike crashes were in that Milton corridor. So geographically, we kind of know where the areas are focused. We can look at serious injury crashes, again, fatal and serious injury. The line in the bottom is all pedestrian crashes. So what that graph tells us is that 29% of pedestrian crashes are either fatal or result in serious injury to the pedestrian. And then if we use 29 as kind of the baseline, we can see what corridors end up with more serious injury crashes or less. So Highway 89, remember that corridor going on past the mall? 63% of the ped crashes there are high injury or fatal.
And how
Serious
much of
injury or
that
fatal.
is covered by the new analysis-y thing? There's something, is that in that segment or is it actually beyond that segment? There's a analysis of safety and, you know what I'm
Yes,
talking about?
yes, I know.
Okay,
The
how
road
much
safety
of the segment
assessment,
that we're talking about there is being
a
covered by
significant
that?
part of it.
Yay,
Um,
that's,
I think this, Chris is online, he can correct me, but I think that road safety assessment will go from Fanning to Marketplace.
and so.
Yeah, Martin, um, so that's the intent. That is what we applied for. And that application that we submitted to ADOT to conduct the study was a result of us looking through these crash reports that the city has done. The intent is for that study area, but as we get into conversations with them, it seems like they have some interest in really trying to refine the study and working with us to identify areas to look. And that work will come sometime in August. They're looking to do the bulk of their work and field visits in September and October of this year. So we should have some results of that to discuss over the next couple of months.
That means Route 66 is the next one on the line that doesn't have a action plan.
Yeah. Yeah, because Milton was done. So same information for the bicycle corridors. Here, all bike crashes, 15% are high injury. And then you can see what's above that is Fort Valley, the west part of Route 66, which is from Milton to Woodlands Village, and Beaver Street. 4th Street as well are all above kind of average for high injury crashes. And you can see the other ones, like including Milton, has a fairly low percentage of serious injuries. So the bad news, there's a lot of bike crashes on Milton. The good news is at least they're not as serious as they could be. And then if we look at both of them, the average for all pedestrian and bike crashes is 22%. In other words, 22% of pedestrian and bicycle crashes result in serious injury or death. And then you can see the corridors where that evens out a little bit more. Route 66, Butler, 4th are all approximately on par. Milton. So if we look at kind of in total, a number of corridors are well above average for KA pedestrian crashes, but they tend to be below average for bicycle crashes, and it kind of equals out in the end. A few more things we can look at to kind of dive into what's happening on these corridors. If we look at where crashes happen on the roadway, the green is they happen at a junction. The junction could be an intersection with a street, an alley, a driveway, or an interchange. Citywide, 70% of pedestrian crashes happen at a junction. And you can see which corridors are above that. Beulah is 94%, happened at junction. Route 66 at 87, Woodlands Village Boulevard, 76%, and then the rest are kind of closer to. The same for bicycle crashes, 75% are at a junction. Along the Beaver corridor, all of the bike crashes happened at one junction or another. Beulah, 93%, Butler, 90%. So it kind of gives us an idea of if we know that there are a lot of crashes occurring along a corridor, what's more detail about what's happening. We can tell which ones are happening at intersections versus along the roadway itself. One more piece of detailed information. This is what action was taken before the crash. And we divided into drivers and then pedestrians or bicyclists. So this graph gets a little bit colorful, but we'll walk through it. So for pedestrian crashes, this is drivers. What was the driver doing before the crash? Gray indicates they're going straight. Green is they were making a left turn. Blue is they're making a right turn. So for all crashes, about 46% are going straight, 30% making a left turn, 19% making a right turn. And then we can look up and down the line to see which ones are kind of well above that or well below that. And what pops out is Beulah.
Mhm.
A lot of drivers are making a left turn or a right turn. And if you remember, if we go back, Beulah, a significant percentage of the crashes were at intersections. So that kind of tracks. It's vehicles turning. Butler Avenue, a lot of cars are going straight, more so than citywide. Knowles through campus, again, a lot of vehicles turning left or right, particularly left. And then on Milton, it's a lot of cars turning right. On Woodlands, a significant number are turning left. It's probably worth mentioning if we go back to that slide that showed the actual numbers, this is each one of these bars represents somewhere between 15 and 30 some crashes. So it's not a huge number. And when you get numbers that small, you can get kind of variations in the data that make it look one way, but may just be anomalies.
You know, the biggest intersections at Woodlands, a lot of people wind up turning left because you turn left onto Woodlands from 66. That's a huge intersection.
Yeah.
And anybody walking across there, when the light changes, you almost can't see them because there's so much traffic coming the other direction. So in my mind, that's a high risk area.
This is gonna seem really dumb, but what's for the gray ones where the driver's going straight? What's a common scenario? Where is the pedestrian in that? Are they,
Crossing the road, probably.
yeah, okay, so either the driver's running the red light or the pedestrian's crossing against a light, or there could be an uncontrolled intersection that, I mean, these also include uncontrolled, so,
Yeah.
cool. I was
Was
just,
it running across the street? Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
totally makes sense.
So we can look at that. This is kind of the other piece of the puzzle. So this is the pedestrian action before a crash. And again, the bottom row, 78% are crossing the street. So a significant number are crossing the street when crashes occur. And you look at up and down these corridors and that kind of, it's the same. I mean, really only on Butler Avenue, 25% of pedestrians are walking along the roadway versus crossing the street.
So they're walking along the roadway, not on the sidewalk. Is that what that means?
We don't have that level of
Ah.
detail. We'd have to dig it deeper to find out. It's kind of, really the data is kind of hard to tell exactly where the pedestrian is if they're in the roadway versus on the sidewalk. I mean, I presume that not many pedestrians get hit when they're on the sidewalk. I hope not many pedestrians get hit when they're walking on the sidewalk.
Driveways, I guess, but yeah,
Yeah, driveways should be covered by,
doesn't count.
junctions, yeah. I mean, it does kind of, I mean, the data is not 100% consistent. It sort of depends on how the individual police officer fills out the report. So they may do it differently, and that's going to account for kind of differences in how the data shows up, especially when we get down to 15, 20 crashes. That may make a difference.
This is over the 10-year period, right?
This is over 10 years, yeah.
You guys take in consideration time these happen or like lighting?
Yeah, there's a whole section on lighting in there.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, it's really cool, actually.
That's
Highway
a really
89,
nice
I'm trying to
report.
remember what the lighting story is.
We'll do that in a moment. It's a temptation to like combine like a number of different factors, but you start slicing the data up and pretty soon you're dealing with like 3 crashes.
Yeah.
It's hard to draw conclusions from that. So here's drivers and bike crashes. The bottom row is all bike crashes, and the thing that jumps out, of course, is 39% are making a right turn. And then we can compare that to individual corridors and see where that's a particular problem. And it looks like Beulah, the west part of Butler, the east part of Butler, Milton, and Route 66 are all problems for right turning vehicles. So we're starting to get a picture of what's happening along those corridors. We can look at bicyclists. And again, very similar. The green is they're going straight. For all crashes, it's 56%. So most bikes are going straight. So like on Milton, you can imagine what do we have for Milton? 55% of bicyclists are going straight. We can imagine that turning vehicles are crossing their path, and that is what results in crashes. And in fact,
Right,
on
but-
Milton, it's 57% are right hooks. Yep. So now we get a pretty good idea of what's happening on Milton, just based on the aggregate of the data. Any questions on that part of it? I mean, I think this is interesting. It gives us a lot of good intel on as we move forward. The challenge with this data is always how to make it operational or actionable. When I think of like Milton and that many turning vehicles, like access control seems to be a natural potential solution, but that becomes much more complicated.
More tunnels.
There's too many driveways.
Are there any plans for that Beulah Lake Mary intersection where most of this stuff happens? And that intersection's a disaster.
It is
Drivers, peds and bikes.
awful.
Yeah.
I've almost been killed there so many times, it's ridiculous.
And like we have all this data. Is there any plan to just throw a roundabout down there?
Yeah, no, not right offhand. I think, the other part of this is all kind of corridor, so it's a combination of those segments and the intersections in between. I think some of the intersections that show up as high crash, Lake Mary and Beulah being, I think, one of the highest crash ones. We could dive into that one specifically and see. Then you can pull data like which direction our car is going, which directions our pets going, almost to the point of like seeing which legs are causing a problem.
My bet is all of them.
Yeah, and then I think we can go so far with this data. I think the second step is a road safety assessment or even some more in-depth analysis of what's happening and what potential countermeasures might be for what's happening at that intersection. I think the other one would be Ponderosa and 66. We saw a lot of crashes at Route 66 in San Francisco. Butler in San Francisco, all were kind of jumped to the top. And so that could be like a different analysis similar to this, but for that particular intersection rather than for the whole corridor. Like I'm guessing we see Beulah on the list of, let's go back to it just for a moment. Beulah had 18 pedestrian crashes between Forest Meadows and Lake Mary. A lot of them were at that intersection.
Yeah, the map you had up before had that pinpoint.
I'd be curious to see how many of those were during that construction that we were doing last year, because it was really awful.
Yeah, that might be another
And that
factor.
could have completely skewed your data.
Yeah, potentially, like it just made a spike.
Yeah, because I know we had a fatality last year. So it could have been, that's the other factor. The other unknown is construction timeframes.
Yep.
At least we got a hotel out of it, right?
Let's go on to a couple other detailed areas. That was kind of the detail for geography, like where crashes are happening and some of the reasons for it. We pulled crashes that occurred at our beacon crossings. I think there are 12. This lists where they're located. This indicates if they're a rapid flashing beacon, a pedestrian hybrid beacon, or a half signal, which is the one on campus. And then the number of crashes at each over the 10-year period. Just in terms of locations, there were 4 ped crashes and 3 bike crashes along 4th Street at the south end by 3rd. At Butler and Humphreys, there were 4 bike crashes and 3 ped crashes. So 7 each for those 2. 5 at Route 66 and Metz Blackbird. And we can see that what that looks like on a map. So 7 for those 2, 3, 2, and 1 for a couple other ones. If there's an empty circle, that indicates that we have a beacon crossing there, but there were no crashes over the 10-year period. 10 years is a long time. Not all of these beacons have been there for 10 years, so that kind of introduces an element. Some of this may represent just 3 or 4 or 5 years of data instead of all
Well, the
10
beacons
years.
on Fourth haven't been there.
You might be surprised.
It might be.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. They might have been there 10 years. If we look at high injury, the one on 4th Street had 2 high injury crashes over 10 years, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other ones had 1 high injury crash. I checked the data. I believe that this one and one of the high injury crashes here were fatalities. So 1 fatality at each one of the crossings on 4th Street.
I'm kind of amazed that there's not any data popping along 180. Or
Yeah,
town.
there's a couple of
right?
the maps where it's totally clean there.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. You're talking about just because we don't really have any beacon crossings.
Well, I know, just in general, I guess I'm
accidents.
reflecting on the original maps you shared, didn't have any
Yeah.
thing on 180 or,
Fort Valley shows up for bike crashes.
just a
It's
little
not
bit.
the high crash things seem like they're.
So Navajo to
Valley,
Meade, there were
Navajo to
15
Meade.
crashes.
Oh, okay. That's what I would have
Got it.
expected. I missed it.
It seemed like it was the breakdown between the high injury maps versus the total accidents.
Yeah, some of these maps, because it's only, like for this one, it's only where there were 3 crashes along a segment or at an intersection.
Okay.
They show up.
Still over 10 years. That's,
So here's the bike one. So we have 4 segment crashes between Forest and Meade, and 4 intersection crashes at Meade. So that's 8. And then anything that was below 3 that doesn't show up in this map is going to be picked up in this corridor. So we counted 8. There were 7 other ones along that corridor that just didn't, none of the segments. Yeah. I kind of tracked this one through because we have thoughts about what might be happening along that corridor. And so let's kind of do that if you don't mind. So this was bicycle crashes. So all bike crashes, 15% are serious, are high injury, 25% along Fort Valley. So higher than average.
Yeah.
Junctions,
Right.
75%.
It's
So
right
right
around
there.
that curve, right? Is it just at that curve there? Past Mama Bees? And then as you head out, is that?
Yes, I mean, our
Yeah.
hypothesis is that it's the foots trail between
Mhm.
Mama Bees and Meade, basically.
Yep.
And Meade has several by itself, it seemed like, as an intersection marked, which was weird. I hadn't expected that.
So in Fort Valley, the drivers, 47% were making a left turn, 27% were making a right turn. So to me, that tells me that it's cars turning in and out of the side streets off of. And bikes probably on that west side. Let's look at bikes, Fort Valley. 63% were going straight.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell really from this, but nothing is at odds with what we're thinking.
What does other mean?
Everything else that wasn't classified, so it covers a whole lot of territory.
Okay.
Yeah, like what else other than going straight or turning
Yeah.
are you doing?
It's not moving.
Some cars are parked there, some are making a U-turn,
Yeah.
some are getting pushed because they're disabled. I mean, it's all kinds of things. It's there's like, they kind of a couple of big categories, and then there's like 6 or 7 categories that have one crash each over the course of 10 years, so. So that's beacon crossings, and we looked at injury severity, and 22% for all crashes, 27% are high injury at beacons, a little bit higher than average, but not
And I
tremendous.
think I asked this before, but help me refresh my memory on how do you define severe injury or serious injury? As in the trauma world, we have a very specific definition, but for the police, I'm not sure how that works.
It may be very similar. We can look up, there's a definition for it in the crash report manual.
Okay, just curious. How that's defined. We define it by how many injuries, the severity of the injury to each body point, and then we square it and we define it by a score.
It may not be quite that mathematical.
I don't think it is, but yeah.
For these beacon accidents, do we know if the beacon was functioning when these accidents occurred?
No,
No.
really, all we know is that these crashes were at those locations.
Because I've noticed beacons frequently are not
Yeah.
working.
Or being used,
Or
for
being
that
used.
matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple other specific types of crashes that we pulled out and just looked at it geographically. I mentioned 39% of bicycle crashes involve a right turning vehicle. This is where they're located.
The Babbitt Butler that showed up as a hotspot, and I was curious about that. That's near Sam's Club and the Ace Home Co, I think.
Yeah,
And I wasn't sure, does like Sam's Club, the driveway that goes across the Arizona Trail there, get its own special designation as a tractor of crashes or something? Because when you're trying to go on the Arizona Trail there, I wasn't sure if that cluster would be likely to include that driveway or.
my guess is yes. We haven't dived into it to verify that, but I think
Seems like a weird hotspot for.
Yeah, I think that is the location.
You're talking the driveway right off Butler that goes into Sam's Club.
Yeah, where,
Between Napa and Taco Bell.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I wish they would close that driveway.
Yeah,
There's already another way to get to Sam's Club.
I totally agree.
It's a terrible place.
Especially it makes the underpass unusable then because I don't dare go
Yeah.
across the driveway to get to the underpass.
Okay, we saw kind of a concentration of nighttime pedestrian crashes, so this is where they're located. We can go back and forth. This is all pedestrian crashes. This is nighttime crashes, and we can do kind of a blink comparison thing. Do nighttime crashes seem to geographically resemble all crashes, or do you see anything that looks different?
There's some differences.
Can you pick them out?
It's just bigger, really, and more along with 66.
I mean, it's like where people are during the nighttime hours tend to be maybe where there's restaurants and businesses and things that are open rather than going about their day. Now that I can see all the data, it's like, okay, yeah, there's crashes really taking place all over town. That 3 threw me off.
So this cluster looks like San Francisco and Butler. This line looks like Route 66. I mean, both have hotspots in all crashes and nighttime crashes.
What's the one that's further south of that big one? There. Where is that?
That's Reardon and Milton.
Reardon, really? Okay. That doesn't surprise me either, actually.
That became a hotspot because of the student housing on Route 66. So there's a light at Reardon and Route 66 and a light at Milton and Route 66. And that's the path of travel that students are taking to get into campus. So we introduced a lot of pedestrians into that intersection. Okay, and this one shows nighttime crashes by injury severity, and the green square is fatality.
Ouch.
So a lot of them on the east side. I didn't do the same kind of bar chart to compare nighttime crashes to all crashes to see if nighttime crashes tend to be higher severity or not, but we can do that.
And these are pedestrian bikes or
This is pedestrians.
pedestrians?
Yeah. So it was kind of the data point that jumped was pedestrian crashes at night was much higher than bike crashes and much higher than vehicle crashes. So a
Scooters,
disproportionate number of pedestrian crashes happen at night.
do scooters count in pedestrian?
They do. We comb through the data. Like if you look at the definitions, pedestrians include people in wheelchairs, people on scooters, people on skateboards, et cetera. We know we had at least one, well, for this data, there was at least one fatality that was on a scooter at Beulah Lake Mary. And so I looked up that crash and like looked through all the data that came with it to see if there was anything that indicated if it was, that you could tell that it was.
It was construction.
Scooter.
It was very poorly marked construction that caused that. I drove right past it and it was when they had all those barrels out. And you couldn't tell which lane to go into. It was horrible. That's what did it.
I wonder, they adjust the crash data over time to like reflect new conditions, like distracted driving was added, for example. So at some point there may be like something that indicates if it was a person on a scooter, cycleway or something like that. So we can tell that versus just a regular pedestrian. But for the moment, it doesn't seem like we can, unless we know.
Okay, that's good to know.
So another data point that kind of jumped was the percentage of pedestrians who were impaired by alcohol. Again, this is the kind of the concentration. We can do the comparison. Again,
Bar Central.
Then the new shelter services.
Yeah.
over here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That Solier kind of corridor.
This was part of that, kind of this corridor,
Yeah. Was
high number of
saved there.
high injury crashes. Yeah,
Sorry, that was the driver or the pedestrian was impaired?
the pedestrian.
Pedestrian.
So it's something like 22% of pedestrian crashes. The pedestrian is suspected of being impaired by alcohol. Okay, that's all. We'll kind of finalize that report, include this information in it. We'll bring it back to you at your August meeting and then send it on to Transportation Commission. We'll share the information with, other departments, the police department. We've talked over the years about kind of having an internal committee that reviews crashes, and other information like that, between engineering, planning, the police department, other internal city groups that are kind of involved in this, just so we're comparing information and sharing information about it. For example, the Bike Advisory Committee, who reviewed this information last week, is interested in encouraging the police department to do targeted enforcement around right turning vehicles, because 39% of bike crashes involve a right turning vehicle. The police department does kind of identify their own trends. They have the access to the same information, and they can do targeted enforcement based off of that. So if we see anything that seems like it might be addressable with targeted enforcement, we can think about bringing that up to them in a similar manner. We can send them a letter or an email or something like that.
Have these data ever been used to like prioritize the next, improvement projects for bike and pet so that they have been operationalized in that way already or already are?
Yes, informally to a significant extent, but it would be, can be done more formally as well. We, kind of draw a direct line between what we have prioritized and where these crashes are occurring.
And then I imagine when you make your decisions about how you're gonna design the intersections, looking back at this data to determine if you need to really focus on a pedestrian crossing, you would use this to help you with that design.
Potentially, yes, yeah.
Or yeah, I was wondering like if there's a place where you're really seeing a big trend of a right hook, or you have some not noise in the data, but some like interesting area, like, hey, we know at Beulah this is happening. Maybe there's a simpler fix that doesn't cost a lot, like painting or.
Yeah, or, the one that comes up is right turn on red restrictions.
Yay. I know.
We don't really have any of, but that could also be a low cost, like, prohibiting right turns when a pedestrian or bicyclist is present, prohibiting right turns altogether, prohibiting right turns during certain hours. There are a couple different forms that could take, but that could fall into that category of low cost. Sort of non-infrastructure improvements.
Milton might be a great place for targeting those types of low cost.
Start with Milton and move to Beulah.
To the gentleman's point earlier regarding the crossings on Route 66, I think we're aware at all the signalized intersections. There's typically one leg a crossing is allowed, one leg crossings are prohibited. If we had data that kind of showed a safety effect of that happening, some safety consequence of having one leg closed, I think that would be something that could be presented to ADOT as evidence of, getting it on their radar to fix those or to add those other crossings.
The pieces of the individual accident reports are publicly available or available to, like if we wanted to do that kind of, just go through every accident report associated with intersection. Is that something the committee could work on, or is it?
We collect the crash reports sometimes just to see individual ones.
When you're talking about like the 3-leg, the consequence of having.
Yeah. Most of it's not public. Like I think a lot of it would have to be redacted. It could get kind of tedious, but I think that's kind of like the next level of digging in detail. Like if you have a particular intersection, you want to see exactly what's happening at that intersection. That's what you would do. Typically, even at that level, like staff would get those reports and then it would be summarized for that intersection. And there's a particular kinds of diagrams that are done where it shows where vehicles are turning, where bikes or pedestrians are moving, that give you a better idea at an individual intersection that you really can only do from those reports. I don't think we can make them public, but at least we can summarize that detailed information.
Yeah, that exactly.
Yeah.
And are any of them candidates for what you could do there? I'm trying to think about which ones. Some of them seem like the intersection, just the traffic load, especially right now, or if once the Lone Tree overpass goes in, I wonder if that will take some of the load off some of these other places where right now we could never prohibit right turn on red because you got to get people through the intersection.
Potentially,
when we have more capacity, I don't know.
The one that jumps to mind in that case is when the Lone Tree overpass goes in. The modeling shows that vehicle traffic on San Francisco will be
Yeah.
much less. So now the right
People
turning
just won't
crashes
want to
from
go.
northbound San Francisco onto eastbound Route 66. That there'll be lower volume movement. So now does it become possible to prohibit right turns there and not
Yeah.
impact traffic flows as much? Okay.
All right, any further questions or discussion on the crash report? Well, the next item of business is the mode share report.
We're working on some of the updates to that. We're doing that because the Metro Plan did their trip diary survey, so we have updated numbers on the percentage of trips being made by walking and biking, but we haven't, it's not done yet. So hopefully at your August meeting, we'll have something more to report on. Besides the trip diary survey, we also look at census data on how people get to work and can pull out more specific information. For example, there's a section where we do like a gender comparison. We do people who identify as having a disability versus not having a disability. We do low income households. And then we do it not white versus non-white, just to get kind of an equity perspective on who's walking and biking. So stay tuned. Hopefully your August meeting will have updated information to present.
Okay, there's no old business, so moving on to concluding general business. University Tunnel, huzzah.
It's open. That's the report.
It's great.
It's great. Yeah. If you get a chance, use it. The roundabout to the west is using a protected design for pedestrians and bikes. So you can see there's like green paint for bikes. Anytime you go across the roundabout, there's a bike side and a pedestrian side.
Which is how video going up around the whole thing on the bike. It was so cool.
Excellent. So nothing more on that. Anybody have a chance to use it?
Not on a
Thoughts,
bike or a
comments?
pedestrian, but I love it in my car. Love that.
Just driven it too, but it's quite nice.
Went by Wednesday and it was awesome. Yeah. So it shows exactly what the city can do,
Yeah.
what we can do now.
All be like that.
We got an example set. Now we need to follow it.
The bar is now higher.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
it
that's what I
is.
felt. I mean, it felt good.
I am curious, like, cause the bike tunnel, like what happens when people do get over, if they're going toward campus and they get over to Target, like there's still kind of a crossing involved there, right?
Yeah, we've been thinking about that, because when you come out of the tunnel, either you have to cross to get into the bike lane or stay on that 8-foot sidewalk. So we've been kind of brainstorming a few ideas about how to accommodate bikes further. None of it is like a small infrastructure project at all. It's probably fairly extensive, but widening that sidewalk so it can accommodate bikes, putting in a cycle track, are all kind of ideas, because the bikes are going to be on that side of the road probably, because that's what the tunnel is. I think it's going to be difficult to get over to the other side of the road for the bike lane. Once you get on campus, if we could get to, we think if you could get to the main ped bike spine, like that makes a connection. Those kind of facilities are complete. That network is complete. So stay tuned. We have a couple of thoughts, but it's going to involve NAU and it's going to be a big project.
It's still better
More
than
construction.
by a long shot. It's still way better than it was.
Yes. It's way better.
Happy.
we'll go through the rest of these. Actually, we thought, we haven't met, we didn't meet last month, so we thought we'd give you a few updates and we can spend more time talking about them as well. We don't have to rush through these necessarily. Schweitzer Canyon Foots Trail. We can pull up a map if that helps. Do that. Okay, give me a moment.
One past the Y? Or no?
Yes.
Around the hill or along the road?
Along the hill.
Be a lot nicer than trying to go along the road.
Mhm.
Okay. This is Flagstaff. This is downtown. We're right here. So this trail goes from the roundabout at Turquoise and Schweitzer Canyon. It's gonna pop up with every little thing it wants to. Through these townhouses. And then around this hillside, and it connects to the end of Terrace. So we can kind of zoom in. This is the existing part of the trail. It's around the roundabout. This part exists here as a sidewalk, then it goes up steeply through the townhouses along the base, kind of along the base of that hill, around the corner, above the Fry's, above the funeral home. Then it comes out here at Terrace, which is a street behind Noble Herb. This little stub street is called Hilltop. There's a social trail that goes down kind of in this direction. It's really steep.
Not super bikeable.
Not super bikeable. We're gonna formalize that trail, but not make it any less steep than it is.
And fries,
No, we looked at.
right?
we looked at
There's like a
ways to-
little cliff thing there, isn't there, or something where you kind of.
This red
an
line
outcrop.
this red line is like a significant cliff. You can follow where people make it down there, down this hill, then go down here, and there's a way to do it, but
For regular grocery shopping, eventually the sidewalks on Schweitzer Canyon
Yeah.
Canyon Road will be great. But this is gonna be a really nice connection to downtown.
yeah, I want you to know we thought long and hard and did field trips for that.
All right.
Fries, but we just could not find a way to make it work. This one we thought about, to take the grade out, you can make a bunch of switchbacks, but our thought was that people would just go straight down anyways,
They
taking
would,
all the
yeah.
switchbacks. So it's gonna be steep. We'll pave it, I think, to make it, not a single track, but more like a sidewalk. Anyway, the news is that the city council approved the contract for construction. It's gonna start next week.
Great.
Yeah.
Which-
Really nice.
Yeah, that's the big
Good
news
thing
here.
completion, how long, a year, 2 years, 6 years?
Before you die.
Well, I mean, I'd like to think maybe like before the summer's out, it depends on how much they gotta do.
That'll be our new time frame. BJD before you go to.
Yes.
Construction, it's gonna have to go into the fall, but it could be done before winter. Like, we're hoping that they won't have to shut down and pick it up again in the spring.
That's
So it
great.
could be done before the end of the year.
That'd be amazing.
Simultaneously, we've got a consultant on board. This is where the Lone Tree
Yeah,
overpass comes out. So we're studying this connection from the Lone Tree Trail up to this one. To see what, how to manage those grades, basically. There's a pretty good cliff in between.
Construction's gonna be fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
That will
already-
take,
it's
that will
already
take several.
fun.
Yeah.
That one will take several.
I'm waiting for the shoe fly. I keep on telling people about the shoe fly now, just because it's such a fun word to me.
It's like both technical and old fashioned.
Yeah, exactly.
Shoe fly. Okay, any questions about that one? C is asphalt foots repair. This is like 8 miles of asphalt trail that we're either replacing or repairing. That's underway. They're working on the first trails. I think the one they're focusing on immediately is the Fort Valley one from Sechrist north to Schultz Pass / Fremont, just to make sure that we have that done before school starts. That one's gonna get totally replaced. They're replacing some of the curb ramps. I think some other trails are getting some cracks repaired, and then they put a seal coat over the top that looks like they painted it black. So it looks nice and new, and that helps refresh the asphalt. So that's going on now. That will continue through the rest of the summer. We're trying to get notices out to people of when trails are going to be closed, because there's not, like, a lot of these don't have really good detours, and the trail just needs to be closed for like a week or so. So we're trying to get just notice out to people via social media. Any questions about that one? That one should be done this year as well. Like, I don't think we'll have to go into another year. Questions, comments? First mile, last mile, Huntington sidewalks are under construction right now. It's going well. I don't know when that's supposed to be finished. I think we have, let's see if I can, we've seen that before, right? You guys know where that is. We have a handy map to show you. It's not what I'm looking at. That's weird. Okay, there it is. So this is Fanning, Route 66, industrial. This street is also called Fanning, and then this part is Huntington. The food bank is here, shelter services is here. And everything in blue is missing sidewalks that are being poured right now. So this is, the grant is called First Mile, Last Mile, or our project is called First Mile, Last Mile. First mile, last mile representing the first or last mile to get to a transit stop. And so we're trying to fill in the sidewalk so people in this area can get out to transit stops, basically. This corner is not part of the first project. We need to acquire some right of way, but hopefully we can do that first thing next year to make those sidewalks complete. So it looked like there's a gap in the meantime, but we're working on completing that. There's other parts to the first mile, last mile. We're looking at sidewalks along Forest Meadows, Highland Mesa, San Francisco.
That started, hasn't it?
Not yet.
Okay, because they're tearing up San Francisco right now.
That's a resurfacing project. We couldn't make it work with that, but we can follow up.
Have to go to work a different way now.
We're also working on the crossings along Fort Valley and Solier. Hopefully, I think our next priority will be that one at Fort Valley and Forest. So hopefully that next summer construction season, we'll do that one. And then bikeways is the third component of that. Questions about that one? We can move on. E is an ADOT Route 66 pavement preservation project. So they're gonna mill and resurface Route 66 from Woody Mountain Road to Fanning. With the exception of the piece in the middle, kind of from like downtown to Woodlands Village Boulevard. So that's a big chunk of road. We've reviewed the plans. Their plans include adding sidewalks in a few places and replacing some of the Foots Trail. Hopefully those remain components of the project. The sidewalks are on West Route 66, kind of generally between Woodlands Village Boulevard and Railroad Springs along the north side.
Great. That missing leg to the Railroad Springs.
Yeah, we have
It's just like 2 blocks.
We've encouraged them to build, like, instead of the sidewalk, to let us give them some money and build a Foots Trail on the north side place of the sidewalk. And the foot trail could become ultimately like a separated bike lane and a sidewalk. It could be done on both sides of the ultimate section. But in the meantime, it could just be two-way ped and bike traffic. So we'll see. I think all this is contingent upon ADOT funding,
When is that gonna happen? I mean, that's like a major.
like 2027. So it's a couple years out. And then we're trying to, most of Route 66 has a shoulder for bikes, and we're trying to make that continuous where there are pieces missing. So on East Route 66, a lot of times when there's a right turn lane, the bike lane will stop, but there's room to stripe it through the intersection. And so we've submitted those comments. And on West Route 66, there's a few places, it's kind of inconsistent. And either through restriping or maybe adding a little bit of extra asphalt, that shoulder along 66 could be consistent from basically Milton to Woody Mountain Road. Again, I think this is comments that we've made. It doesn't necessarily mean that it'll be part of the project when it comes up. Okay, moving down, Casper Lynch sidewalks. This work is underway. I'm going to turn it over to Carlton and let him explain.
This was a resurfacing that we just snuck in a few extra ideas here. There's existing, and then we added this, so kind of fill out the road where it turns into that dirt parking lot of sorts, and then add a sidewalk connector. That's our plan in there.
And part of the reason that we're looking at that sidewalk connection, it's a nice connection to complete that sidewalk and connect to the foot trail. But just to the left on this image across Caspar, there's a gentleman who lives in that house who uses a wheelchair, and he likes to get to the foot trail, but has a really hard time doing it because of the gravel and the crossings and so on. So this will give him a route to that foot trail.
Added bike lanes for the whole length of Lynch too.
All the way around the corner out to Cummings.
Yeah. And then area, this is just east of where we were looking, existing, the underpass setup. The middle concrete makes it look, in the aerial, it looks like that's a sidewalk, that's a drainage thing. And also the aerial doesn't do the grade justice. It's not just a parkway here, you're downhill, a little awkward setup. So it's technically on the other sheet where it's called out on the plans, but this gives you better context of what it connects to. Just snuck in the simplest ramp we could so that bikes can go in and out and get to the tunnel now.
We tried to find a way to widen that sidewalk from there down to the foots. So it'd be 10 feet wide like a foot trail, but the grading, we just got too complicated. And we were, like Carlton said, we were sneaking this project into a city resurfacing project. So we couldn't do everything we wanted to. But this will be an improvement at least for.
Yeah, no big master plan attached to this one. It was kind of what can you draw by tomorrow?
Can we improve this while we're doing it?
Yeah.
At least it's a short distance. I mean, if there were for a narrow sidewalk, if you can see on a short distance, you get a pretty good idea of whether you're gonna have to yield for that.
Yeah. If we zoomed out, all of this is part of kind of our efforts to get people through that mall area more comfortably on bike. And when Lynch goes out to Cummings, and then there's a way to kind of wind your way through behind Del Taco and Wendy's and all that stuff. And people do it to connect to the North 89 trail. And then that now you have access to all those neighborhoods in that part of town. So adding the bike lanes to Lynch, adding this curb ramp, adding the sidewalks kind of helps facilitate this part of that larger picture. Okay, thoughts, questions?
That should be happening right now.
Good
too.
sneaky, good sneakiness.
Linda Vista sidewalk, I think you've seen this one before. What I really wanted to show you was an actual picture of the finished project, but we didn't get out of the office to go take a picture of it, so we just have the plans. Has anybody been out to see it?
I've driven right by it. Looks great.
Definitely an improvement, it seems like, for getting there versus the entering traffic.
Yeah, one thing we wanted to see is just where you turn from Linda Vista onto this thing. Kind of this corner, because it's
Yeah, you have to
now,
slow
it's not
down a
like,
little
yeah,
bit
you have to slow down. Yeah,
That's good.
exactly. You have to slow down.
Someone who smiles when he hears the word slow down.
So making that maneuver as a vehicle will require that that you know where your brake pedal is and that you have operable brakes.
Yeah.
That's good.
That should be
That's a good thing.
required anyways.
So at some point, we'll go out and actually look at it and see what that looks like, but it's there. H is a crossing at Humphreys and Fine, and we've talked about this one, I'm sure, before. I'll turn it over again to Carlton because he's done some good work to move this forward.
Have a draft report we're gonna send to ADOT pretty soon. Went through a variety of warrant analysis. They're not always called that, but that kind of ways to justify it to ADOT. They have a couple of different ones that they review, so we're doing those because it is their road. And then we're also comparing to some more national standards. There's an older research paper that we can just see where we land on that one, which we're right at the cusp. So there's a time delay, 1.3 hours. A pedestrian delay is the cusp between doing an enhanced crossing or not, and we're right at 1.3. So, and that's kind of where we land with the ADOT stuff too, is we're really close on all of it. And we'll see, I think if there's some pent up demand, that's the tricky thing that we can't always measure.
People would use it if they could.
Yeah, fun one. I saw there's this 20 people per peak hour threshold that shows up in a lot of different warrants of sorts. I saw one case study where a crossing in Scottsdale had 20, it was right at 20, so they barely made it. They put in a crossing. A few months later, they counted 660.
You built it, they were shot.
This is that,
Yeah.
this is that crossing to get to the school. Is that-
Yeah, so that's what this is tied to, and part of it has to do with the bus system. So the high schoolers get dropped off now on either Beaver or San Francisco. So they have to cross Humphreys to get to Flag High. So that's increased the demand a little bit. And the idea for behind this.
And all the kids get free bus passes, so they're gonna be using the bus. Mine are.
And it's just a hard segment
Mhm.
between the
Yeah,
Bashes
really.
intersection and then the next place you can
It's
cross.
a really long distance.
Yeah,
between-
without a lot of line of sight.
Birch is the next one.
Yeah.
You can cross.
Yeah, Birch and Columbus. We look, Elm is a little busier for people or vehicles to cross, but the visibility is so bad, we'll shift it on up to Fine. We cued in on that right away.
So many people are turning onto or off of the street there at Elm. I mean, that's a terrible place, so I'm glad you moved it down to Fine.
Yeah, so
Like a lot of people use Elm to get access to Humphreys, and turn left or
Mhm.
right onto it. Yeah.
Well, then from Humphreys left into, like you're going into Flag High, 'cause
Oh,
that's
yeah,
where they all make
yeah,
the turn,
yeah.
right there.
That's good to know, because then Fine is a better location.
Oh,
So
yeah.
then you don't have to cross any
sure.
conflicts, yeah.
Oh, and yeah, so with that, we're looking at a PHB or a RFB, those acronyms we know. The PHB is the West 66 one, the full red light, the cars stop. Then the RFB would be like Butler and Humphreys. It's just a flashing amber light. So you don't have to stop it, just like caution, caution. There's probably somebody in the crosswalk. But there's no exact law that you have to stop and wait for it to start flashing again, like on the PHB. So we think ADOT doesn't have a formal RFB, the flashing amber warrant. It has a formal PHB, and that's the one we scored at 33, and their threshold is 35. Example. So we're right at the cusp. I think we could argue one way or another, potentially. But so we're just below that. We feel like the RFP probably has a lower threshold anyways. And then that is a narrower crossing. If you guys have an opinion there on if you think one would work better than the other. We haven't really decided for sure.
And where's this one?
Humphreys and Vine is where we want to put it.
Okay, so
The question is kind of just flashing amber light like at Humphreys and Butler, or the full stop control like on 66 and Blackbird.
As a pedestrian, I would want the full
Yeah.
stop. As a driver, people don't know what to do once it starts flashing red a lot of the time. Like,
yeah,
it's red, people stop, and then it starts flashing, the people are through, and people still don't go a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So
What's the one at the hospital considered, like on San Francisco?
that's the one I would aim for, actually, because that one's effective and it's,
Although I often feel like I don't want to hit hospital people because they're such nice, like they're the medical staff who wants to go down having hit a nurse or something. I mean, whereas a high school.
there's a high schooler just
Anyway,
dump on the gas.
It seems like it is effective there, but maybe it's because the whole thing of they have lots of people using it. And that might just be the.
Like that's just a RFB with the amber lights. And it's a more similar cross section of street than like West 66 being faster and 4 lanes.
Yeah,
So that is probably the best comparison actually.
I think that's effective and it'll get used. It won't get used all the time. It's just certain times of the day that it's just gonna get a lot of use. So maybe the one that's right there at the hospital is the best.
Hospital doesn't get snowball traffic. I was trying to think about, are there any extreme case scenarios where
Oh, that's true.
it's just, I don't know that surely people would stop.
I didn't even
Well,
think
there's-
about that.
Well, when there's snowball traffic, it's all stopped anyways.
It's.
That's right, that's one of the easier times.
Real stuff.
Yeah, they'd be less familiar for sure. The Beaver has more locals that see it every day. Humphreys will be more out of towners all seasons, really.
Yeah.
Okay, keep moving. Next on the list is micromobility share. And if Chris is still on, I'll turn it over to him.
Sounds good, Martin. All right, so micromobility share updates. You may remember a couple of months ago, the PAC received a formal presentation from the micromobility share group, which consists of engineering city staff, sustainability city staff, Metro Plan, and NAU. That was part of a greater outreach to city committees and commissions following us giving a similar presentation to city council and getting the nod to begin a phase of outreach. That has, for the most part, wrapped up, and we, as of a couple of days ago, are officially on the council agenda for late September to go back and report what we found. And offer an official staff recommendation as far as how to proceed. Still to come are some internal discussions within city engineering over the management of the program. Originally, what was proposed was, since this would, create a new task in the for the city to oversee at some level, management will be necessary, and the proposition of a new position to be housed within transportation engineering in some facet came up. So we'll be discussing that and seeing what that might look like, which is a pretty exciting opportunity, as overseeing a micromobility share program would be a percentage of that role, but certainly wouldn't take up a full-time position. So depending on how that moves forward, it could be a new position within transportation, just expanding our team, which is pretty exciting. So that's about all I have related to micromobility share. Are there any questions at this time? All right.
Okay, we'll keep moving. Ron had to hop off, by the way. I don't know if anybody saw. Next on our list is a Flagstaff regional plan. The latest draft was just released in the last couple of days. I had a flyer that explained the whole the schedule moving forward, and I forgot to bring it in. So tomorrow I'll send you all a copy of that, if that's all right. If you want to take a quick review and discuss it at one of our upcoming meetings, I think our August one is a chance to do that. Do you want to do that? I know we have looked at it before. I think what some other commissions are doing is looking at the latest draft to see how their comments were incorporated into that draft. Should we plan on having that at our August meeting? Okay. And I'll send that. I think that generally the schedule is that there are public hearings at the Planning and Zoning Commission in September. Council approval sometime after that, and then it will go to the voters in May of next year. Mail-in election only in May. And then presumably that will be our new regional plan. K on the list is LASCAP, which stands for Land Availability and Suitability Study and Code Analysis Project. And
Sounds really dull.
And because I know not much more about it than just what those acronyms mean, I'm going to turn it over to Carl. There's a couple of, they're considering a couple of code revisions that will encourage housing attainability that I think overlap with our area of interest.
Yeah, the narrowing right of way has been a big topic to then create more space for homes. It's tricky to get around fire requirements right now. That's what our minimum street width is built around, is minimum fire widths, while having cars parked on both sides still. We used to, for years, have one that was 3 feet narrower. So if you want to reference that, that would be like in Boulder Point, if you're off of University, that is 3 feet narrower than the current standard, which would, the current standard one, you could go up over to Timber Sky, see if it feels much different. But what that does is it leaves 14 feet if there's a parked car on either side, 14 feet in between them, versus now it's 17 feet. And then I think I can get the 20-foot technicality requirement by claiming there's the gutter pan is usable. But anyway, we're looking, I think there's a way around it to make the 14 work again. So we'll save 3 feet. I think it therefore slows down cars on less busy streets too. There's that moving forward. Another big topic on that would be related to that space and the resultant space when you're parking is the winter parking ordinance of maybe looking at undoing that or having some sort of rotation. And what that would do is would allow some on-site parking to exist on the street overnight all winter. So you could count on that, and presumably get to have less on-site parking requirements in the long run. And I think where that would help even more so than like a big apartment complex having a few less parking spots on site is could help with infill development. So you turn a single family house into a fourplex or something, and you can't, the geometry would never let the parking work for a small lot like that, even though the house would fit, or the fourplex would fit just fine. So can that push some parking out on the street? That's been a big topic on that too.
So do those turn into no plow streets or do they, I was thinking about our street, okay, yeah.
Potentially, yeah, yeah.
That seems like that would be better than plowing 4-foot berms so that people are completely trapped for, or, you know, the obstacle, the choice of obstacles is.
A lot of other cities with snow will do the 2 inches or more predicted, then it's no parking, but I think that works against that being your only parking option.
Still have to sleep somewhere.
Yeah, you still have to park somewhere. So then the other option would be rotating sides of the street. So you plow just half the street at a time. Kind of thing. That's the one.
I've lived in some snowy places where during the winter, it's even odd, like every night. So you can only park on the even side of the street one night and the odd the other night.
Albany, it's like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did the same thing, very narrow streets.
Yeah.
Snowy places I live, you just get a 4-foot berm next to your car, so you need an extra hour to dig your car out if.
That happens here sometimes. People don't move their cars and then you don't see it until spring.
So we'll,
Denver would just let it melt, I think. They would get, other big storms don't come until March in Denver. Really, I think they just get a little bit at a time all winter, and the big ones, the upslopes, will be in March and April, and they melt so fast. It's not worth chasing.
so we'll keep moving. L is the Safe Streets for All grant for the Butler Avenue Complete Streets conversion. The update for that is the city and Metro Plan let an RSOQ, which is a request for statements of qualification. 5 engineering firms responded to it. We're in the process of reviewing those submittals to pick a designer for that project. I don't know if we have a firm schedule for construction, but it will be over the next couple of years probably. So we're working through that process. That one is funded entirely by a combination of state and federal grants of around $12 million. M is also a Safe Streets for All grant for the Safe Streets Master Plan, and I'll turn it over to Chris to give you an update on that.
Thanks, Martin. Yep, couple of updates. So this project is in a similar place to the Butler Avenue Complete Street Conversion one. So an RFP period, or request for proposal period, where consultants can submit to do the work, just closed. We received 6 submissions, which is exciting. Over the next couple of weeks, a committee will be reviewing the applications and then conducting a series of interviews with, I believe, the top 3. And then ultimately, we'll be selecting a consultant to lead the work over the next couple of years to create the city's transportation master plan and a few supplemental materials to it. That's the status of that. Any questions on the streets master plan? All right, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to go on to the next one, Chris.
Martin, we actually had one Safe Streets for All grant that we wanted to include here. If this is an appropriate time for me to go into that. Okay.
Go for it.
Sure. So I don't believe that this one has gotten to the PAC yet, because we kind of had to sneak it in last month in June. But there was another Safe Streets for All submission period available, submissions were due June 25th. So we polished off a previous application from 2024 that ultimately is for supplemental planning funds, approximately $1 million. And what it would do is ultimately amend the ATMP and create a new section that would house concept level design plans for several high priority projects that are identified earlier in the ATMP. so this would just give us a good jump start on some of the bigger projects that we've been talking about in these meetings and, that are outlined in the ATMP. We expect to hear back in fall or early winter of this year.
Cool.
And the project we were thinking of is a bikeway and foots trail that goes parallel to Milton from basically downtown to Beulah and Lake Mary.
Nice.
Wow.
Mhm.
That solved a lot of those crash issues that we're seeing.
It would, yes. Yeah, it's kind of a big project, so, like Chris said, getting some concept plans done for that would help jumpstart that as a project. We'll move forward. Carlton is working on a transportation alternative grant through the state for a safe routes to school project. It has three components. One is looking at a bus alignment, making a left turn out from Gemini onto Forest to get better transit access to that area. The second part is looking at safe routes to school improvements around Knowles School on Butler. And the third part is looking at the north end of Sunnyside and any improvements that can be made to help kids get to that cluster of schools up in the northeast corner. A consultant is on board. This grant is with the city and Metro Plan. We have a consultant that's looking at all three of those projects. We had a meeting last week to kind of brainstorm some ideas about the Gemini left turn onto Forest and the schools in Sunnyside. I think that will likely concentrate in that Cedar corridor and think about what improvements could be made between essentially 4th Street and West Street. That's an interesting corridor because we actually, unlike a lot of streets in Flagstaff, we have a lot of extra room in that right of way.
there.
That street is too wide, basically, for what it needs to be. So there's the big picture might be how do we rearrange that street to provide better sidewalks, more crossings, and better bike facilities. We're looking to see if there's anything that can be done in the short term, so we don't have to have a big infrastructure project to improve the crossings, make it more comfortable for peds and bikes, like through striping and a few other things. So they're working on that. I think they're also looking at 4th Street, 6th Street, and West Street is kind of the bigger areas. And some of these will go into more detail. Some will just be kind of conceptual level plans, but kind of that whole part of Sunnyside. And again, the gentleman commented earlier on crossings on Cedar. That's going to be a big part of it, looking at crossings. I think there's many more opportunities that currently exist. And Cedar should not be that hard of a street to cross, really, given the traffic and the speed. Okay, questions, comments? On the agenda, I had listed the TA grant application that we made for the Fort Valley sidewalks, but I think you've seen that one before. What I really meant to put there was the project that Chris talked about that we missed your last meeting for, which was the concept planning, including the one along Milton. We're still waiting to hear on that TA grant. Hopefully we'll get that and can move forward with those sidewalks on Fort Valley. P is appointments and reappointments. The city changed the system where applications are submitted. I don't have direct access, but I need to get with the clerk and find out how many new applications we have. The next Transportation Commission is August 6th. That's our next opportunity to get an appointment made. Which I've not really been in a super hurry to.
I think I needed to be reappointed.
Okay.
Like if my term was initially only a year or something like that. I
Okay.
don't know if you recall. Do I need to reapply?
You need to reapply. Yeah. Let me check tomorrow. Plan on resubmitting that application. I'll get you the link
For
tomorrow.
the August 6th?
Yeah.
We have it on the whole time.
I can send you your old application so you can.
That'd be lovely.
Cut and paste. Yeah.
Thank you.
We don't
I would
have
just
to-
use all the same material mostly.
It worked last time.
Great. Okay. Yeah, if you don't mind letting me know.
Okay, thank you for that reminder.
And I could be wrong, but I want to say my appointment was like a temporary,
You were filling in,
Assignment.
like the end of another
yeah,
term, yeah,
yeah.
okay.
And how is BAC doing? Are they all full up?
They are,
That's good.
they have one person who's in your situation,
Okay.
is turned out. When we replace them, they can't.
That's all right. Just checking.
It's like you two swap.
We'll see who all is, if there's any fresh ideas and can be pretty good too.
We were talking about this earlier and like you can serve 2 full terms and then a partial term. So that's 6 years up to like, let's say 8 years. And if you rotated yourself through the pedestrian committee, the bicycle committee, the transportation commission, and then we threw in the airport commission. Then commission on inclusion and adaptive living, because they have a great interest in transportation.
Totally, yeah.
You could be on for 40 years.
Wow.
Easy, easy peasy.
Is there any more on that topic?
Nothing for me.
Okay. Well, in that case, we can move on to concluding announcements. I think you already shared. The next Transportation Commission meeting is on the 6th of August. I think you've gathered some agenda items for the next PAC. Any other concluding announcements? In that case, do we move to adjourn?
You can adjourn it just by consensus. Nobody objects. You can just call the meeting to an end.
I would like to call this meeting to an end. Here, here. Excellent. Well, thank you. Do you need me to send you a reminder, Martin, or
Be helpful.
right now? Because that will also help me.
And don't forget to put that you served as interim chairperson for the PAC now that you've got that on your resume.
Ah, that's right. Thank
Did a
you.
Great job.
Something like that.
Did a great job. Really good. For stepping up. It's a very brief and informal email I'm sending you, but thanks for checking that, Martin. All right. Thank you all.
Thanks all. We went a little bit over, but thanks for hanging in there.
Thanks.